what we're looking at is it's printed material. We're talking about what was flushed down a toilet. We were very diligent in making sure we preserve those documents, and ultimately, I think the record will show that.
That was former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in an interview with the pro-Trump TV station Newsmax, making an eyebrow-raising defense of the Trump administration's record-keeping habits. Just one day after we learned that Donald Trump periodically tried to flush printed paper down the toilet while in office. But what's even more eyebrow-raising is the fact that Mark Meadows is there on live television talking about presidential records and the January 6th investigation at the same time that he's actually violating a subpoena from those very same investigators. It's been almost 2 months since the House of Representatives officially voted to recommend contempt charges for Mark Meadows because of his refusal to cooperate with that investigation. The Justice Department still hasn't said whether it's not going to charge or whether or not it's going to charge Meadows with contempt of Congress for his refusal to cooperate with the investigation. The committee is still waiting on Attorney General Merrick Garland to make that determination. And it would be one thing if that was the only outstanding question that the January 6th investigators had to deal with right now. But there are a lot of balls still in the air right now for those investigators. There's the question of the missing call records in the documents turned over to investigators, first reported by the New York Times yesterday. And the questions about whether Trump is still keeping classified material belonging to the federal government at his home in Mar-a-Lago or somewhere else. Today, CNN reports that the National Archives only received the documents from Mar-a-Lago after threatening to alert Congress and the Justice Department if the records were not turned over. That same CNN reporting also cites a source which says the document turnover has, quote, not been fully resolved, and that Trump remains in possession of some documents that the archives wants. Today, members of the January 6th investigation met to discuss the issue of whether or not to hold this guy, Trump's TV lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, in contempt for his refusal to cooperate with the investigation. This comes after a report this week that Giuliani had asked a local prosecutor in Michigan to turn over voting machines to the Trump team in the aftermath of the election. We're all still waiting to learn whether or not investigators will be able to secure an interview with Trump's daughter, White House advisor Ivanka Trump, to discuss what she saw in the White House on January the 6th. All of that is still in front of the investigators as they're reportedly about to enter a new public phase of their investigation with open televised hearings, a phase that investigator Liz Cheney says will show once and for all that Trump's lies provoked the violence on January 6th. So what can we expect in the coming days? Joining us now is Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin. He's a member of the January 6th investigation. He's the former lead impeachment manager for Donald Trump's second impeachment. Congressman, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate your time.
You bet, Ali.
Liz Cheney, your Republican colleague who is on the committee, one of only 2 Republicans on the committee, censured by the Republican National Committee, has said that they will, your investigation will prove that Donald Trump's lies motivated the violence on January 6th. What does that do? What happens if she's right and you're right and you have the proof? Does it change anyone's mind about anything?
Well, our mandate, of course, is to get to the bottom of the events and to tell America the truth so people can see a clear chronology of events and the causation of different things. Now, of course, the House already impeached Donald Trump for inciting the violent insurrection against the Union, and there was a 57-43 vote in the Senate also agreeing to that factual causation. But what we're doing here is we're filling in with very empirically rooted, fine-grained detail exactly what took place, who spoke to who. We're trying to fill in the operational hierarchy of who gave orders to who. And so we're trying to put together the activities of that most obstructionist and defiant coterie of advisors around Trump, the Steve Bannons and the Rudy Giulianis and the Roger Stones, all of their actions with the people who are far more forthcoming from the Oath Keepers and the 3 Percenters and the Proud Boys, with people from the mob, with people in the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security, people throughout the government. So the vast majority of the people involved have told us the truth, want to tell us the truth, are cooperating, and it's really that tight little entourage surrounding Donald Trump that are trying to hold out. That's what's slowing us down a little bit. But I think that although time is on their side, all of the momentum is on our side.
So this is interesting, the language you use, empirically rooted, fine-grained detail. I remember when I watched the impeachment proceedings, I actually thought you had a lot of empirically rooted, fine-grained detail there and knew a lot about what happened. What to you is new? What are the things that you've learned? A lot of it's new to me, but what's new to you that changes how you see January 6th and Donald Trump's culpability in that event?
Well, what was so manifest at the trial were all of Donald Trump's statements inciting the mob. You got to go and fight like hell, or you're not going to have a country anymore. And when there's fraud involved, there's a completely different set of rules. And we followed that all the way back to, the storming of the Michigan State Capitol, where he was inciting those people. And so we were able to follow that all the way up to the point of violence. And at that point, the video took over and the testimony of people who saw what happened. But what we didn't know were the operational hierarchies behind the scene. Who was giving the orders? Who's interfacing between Trump's political entourage and neo-Nazi stormtrooper groups, white nationalist groups? How was this mob activated, and how were the decisions to commit violence made? Look, Donald Trump is right now out there defending his decision to try to overthrow Biden's majority in the Electoral College, saying Mike Pence had the authority to overturn the election. That was his entire political purpose there, but he was willing to surround that coup with a violent insurrection, and he was willing to surround that violent insurrection with mob violence against our police officers, 150 of whom ended up wounded and injured after being hit over the head and smashed in the guts and having their ribs broken and so on. So we're going to tell that story. There were actual human beings responsible for this. It wasn't Donald Trump alone. There were a lot of other enablers and handlers who made it all possible.
Congressman, we appreciate your time as always. Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin is a member of the January 6th investigation.